Queen Victoria's reign of 63 years was one of the longest of all time in British history. The time from her ascension in 1838 to her death in 1901 is famously known as the Victorian era in the United Kingdom. During her time as queen, the foundation for the modern constitutional monarchy we know today was built. Her reign saw the British Empire grow and become the first global industrial pioneer. The inventions made, especially in the arts and science, helped build the world we know today. Victoria is not only famous for her long reign, but also for her marriage to her first cousin, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. The marriage was a love match which resulted in the birth of 9 children. Thanks to revolutionary breakthroughs in medicine, they all survived to adulthood. Victoria and Albert managed to marry off their children into other European royal families. Such as her eldest daughter, who was also named Victoria, she married Frederick, who would later become the German emperor, albeit for only 99 days. Through their children, Victoria and Albert became grandparents to 42 grandchildren. Albert, however, only lived long enough to see their first 2 grandchildren be born. He died on December 14, 1861, of typhoid fever, aged only 42. His death left Victoria heartbroken. The grandchildren of Queen Victoria went on to also make dynastic marriages across the royal houses of Europe. Through this, Victoria gained herself the nickname Grandmother of Europe. Although her reign is mostly associated with the 19th century, a great number of her grandchildren saw the second half of the 20th century. This is where today's video starts. We will be looking at the 10 longest-lived grandchildren of Queen Victoria, starting at number 10. Here we find Victoria of Hesse and by Rhine. She was the eldest daughter of Princess Alice of the United Kingdom. Born on Easter Sunday, 1863, Victoria, Alberta, Elizabeth, Mathilde, Marie was the first child of Alice and Louis. She was born at Windsor Castle with her grandmother, Queen Victoria, overseeing her birth. Victoria spent her childhood in Germany, where she was educated to a high standard. In 1878, Victoria was just 15. Her mother died of diphtheria. Being the eldest sibling, she had to help her father with her younger brother and her sisters. Victoria married her first cousin once removed, Prince Louis of Battenberg, in 1884. They had 4 children within the next 16 years. Victoria, an avid reader since her childhood, taught her children by herself. She was further interested in science and archaeology. After her daughter Alice had a breakdown and had to be treated, Victoria took over the care of her grandson, Prince Philip. Philip was the husband to the late Queen Elizabeth. During the Second World War, Kensington Palace was bombed and Victoria was forced to move to Windsor Castle. Victoria, who had smoked since the age of 16, fell ill with bronchitis during the summer of 1950. She died on September 24, 1950, and was buried on the Isle of Wight. Next we have Princess Irene of Hessand by Rhine. She was given the name Irene, which translated from Greek to English means peace, because she was born at the end of the Austro-Prussian War. Following the death of her mother, Irene and her siblings made regular visits to the court of their grandmother, Queen Victoria. Irene became engaged to her first cousin, Prince Henry of Prussia. Henry was the younger brother of the later Wilhelm II. When the wedding took place on May 24, 1888, Irene's father-in-law and German Emperor Frederick III was dying of throat cancer. He died only 2 weeks later. Irene and Henry enjoyed a happy marriage, which resulted in 3 sons. Irene had been a carrier of hemophilia, which she passed on to 2 of her sons. This resulted in her youngest son dying after bumping his head at the age of only 4. After her husband died in 1929, Irene continued to live in Germany, where she witnessed the outbreak of the Second World War. Irene died in Hemmelmark, Germany in 1953. She was the last surviving child of Princess Alice and Grand Duke Louis. The person on number 8 is Princess Margaret of Prussia. Born on April 22, 1872, Margaret was the youngest sister of the later German Emperor Wilhelm II. She was nicknamed Mossy in her family and was deeply attached to her parents. In 1893, she married her second cousin, Prince Frederick Charles of Hesse. Despite Frederick Charles being her second choice in husband, the marriage would turn out to be very happy. Margaret was pregnant soon and gave birth to their first son in late 1893. 7 more children would follow. Their 2 eldest sons were killed in action during the First World War. In late 1918, newly independent Finland elected Margaret's husband as their king. Despite firstly accepting the offer, Charles Frederick renounced it after 3 months due to German misfortunes in the First World War. During the Second World War, she lost another son while in action and her daughter-in-law Mafalda. Margaret died on January 22, 1954, the same day as her grandmother, Queen Victoria, at the age of 81. She was the last surviving child of Emperor Frederick III. Next on this list is Prince Charles Edward. He was the posthumous child of Prince Leopold and was born on July 19, 1884. At his birth, he succeeded his father as a Duke of Albany. At the age of 16, he inherited the ducal throne of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha upon the death of his uncle Alfred. Shortly before he succeeded, he, his mother, and his sister moved to Germany. Especially his mother, a German princess, supported Charles as his uncle's successor. During the First World War, he supported the Germans, which led to him getting unpopular in the UK and ultimately losing his British titles. Charles also lost his throne at the end of the First World War and later became a Nazi supporter. Ultimately, he died penniless in 1954 after suffering from cancer. The next person on this list is Princess Marie-Louise of Schleswig-Holstein. She was the daughter of Princess Helena of the United Kingdom and was born on August 12, 1872. As her family lived in the UK rather than Germany, Marie-Louise was considered a member of the British royal family. Within her close circle, she was known as Louis. Shortly before her 19th birthday, she married Prince Aribert of Anhalt, the 3rd son of the Duke of Anhalt. The marriage was arranged by Marie-Louise's cousin, Emperor Wilhelm II. The marriage, however, did not turn out to be a love match. Prince Aribert possibly was homosexual, and the couple never consummated their marriage. It was ultimately annulled in 1900. As Princess Marie-Louise viewed her wedding vows as binding, she never remarried. She devoted her time to charitable organizations, and during the First World War she worked in a hospital. During her later life, she attended numerous major events within the British royal family. She attended 4 coronations and saw 4 reigns during her lifetime. She died on March 12, 1957, aged 84. Number 5 on this list is Prince Alexander of Battenberg. His mother was Princess Beatrice of the United Kingdom, and his father was Prince Henry of Battenberg. Due to a royal warrant passed by Queen Victoria, he was eligible to take the style of His Highness. Prince Alexander had a long naval career before he joined the British Army in 1909. He became a 2nd lieutenant in the Grenadier Guards and got promoted to the rank of lieutenant 4 years later. During the First World War, he married Lady Irene of Hessand, with whom he had 1 daughter. It was rumored but never confirmed that Alexander had a long-time affair with another man. Towards the end of the First World War, Alexander's cousin and King George V requested all of his relatives to drop their German titles. As such, Alexander became known as Sir Alexander Mountbatten, Marquess of Carisbrooke. As Alexander received no state allowance, he became the first member of the British royal family to work in the commercial sector. During the Second World War, Alexander joined the Royal Air Force as an acting pilot officer despite being in his mid-50s. He died in 1960, aged 73, and was the last surviving grandson of Queen Victoria. At number 4, we have Princess Beatrice of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. She was born at Eastwell Park on April 20th, 1884, as the youngest child of Prince Albert, Duke of Edinburgh. Within her family, she was known as Baby B. Initially growing up in Malta, where her father served in the Navy, the family moved to Coburg in 1893 when Prince Alfred inherited the duchy of his uncle. Beatrice had a romantic relationship with Grand Duke Michael, younger brother of Tsar Nicholas II, but they were barred from marrying as the Russian Orthodox Church did not allow first-cousin marriages. Beatrice was left heartbroken for several years. Eventually, Beatrice married Alfonso de Orleans y Bourbon, a member of the Spanish royal family. They firstly settled in Coburg as they were forced to live in exile as Beatrice refused to convert to Catholicism. Later they were invited back to Spain and Beatrice lastly converted. The couple had 3 sons. During the Spanish Civil War, the family once again had to move abroad. They lost much of their estates and wealth due to the warfare. Even worse, one of their sons was killed while in action. Eventually they moved back to Spain. Beatrice died there in 1966, aged 82. Now we are moving on to the first 3 ranks. Next we find Princess Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg. She was born on October 24, 1887 at Balmoral Castle and was the youngest grandchild of Queen Victoria. As she was born in the 50th year of her grandmother's reign, she was called the Jubilee Baby. She grew up in the household of Queen Victoria. She therefore formed a close bond to her grandmother. She later recalled that the Queen was very kind but strict and old-fashioned. Victoria called her granddaughter the Little Treasure. In 1905, Victoria Eugenie, who was known as Anna, met King Alfonso XIII of Spain at a state dinner at Buckingham Palace. The wedding took place only a year later. The procession was overshadowed by an assassination attempt in which an anarchist threw a bomb at Anna and Alfonso. The couple would have 6 children. Their first child and heir apparent to the Spanish kingdom, Alfonso, inherited the deadly disease hemophilia. King Alfonso never forgave his wife for spreading the disease into the family, and as a result, their relationship deteriorated. During the Spanish Civil War, the family was forced into exile. Alfonso lost his throne when the Second Spanish Republic was proclaimed in 1931. Anna from then on lived between the UK and Switzerland. She died in Lausanne, Switzerland in April 1969, aged 81. At number 2, we have Princess Patricia, who was the daughter of Prince Arthur, Duke of Connaught and Strathearn. She was known as Patsy to her family. Patricia's family traveled a lot when she was younger as her father served in the army. She grew up to become one of the most beautiful princesses of the Edwardian era. Many monarchs were considered as her future husband, but Patricia lastly settled on a commoner named Alexander Ramsay. They married in 1919, whereupon Patricia gave up her style of Royal Highness and the title of Princess. She was from then on known as Lady Patricia Ramsay. The couple would have 1 son. Despite giving up her style and title, Patricia remained a member of the British royal family and therefore attended all the major events such as the funeral of George V, the coronation of George VI and Queen Elizabeth, and the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. Patricia died in 1974, 8 weeks before her 88th birthday. She and her husband are buried at the Royal Burial Ground at Frogmore behind her grandparents. Patricia's death left Princess Alice as the last surviving grandchild of Queen Victoria. She was born on February 25, 1883, as the only daughter of Prince Leopold, Duke of Albany. Her father died as a result of his hemophilia disease when she was only 1 year old. She herself was a carrier of the gene. In 1904, she married her second cousin, Prince Alexander of Teck. Alexander was the brother of the later Queen Mary. When the British royal family relinquished their German titles in 1917, her husband was granted the earldom of Athlone. Alice was therefore known as the Countess of Athlone. The couple moved to South Africa when Alexander was appointed Governor-General there. Later, he was appointed Governor-General of Canada, thus moving the family across the ocean. Their time there was marked by the Second World War. Alice supported the war effort by serving in different honorary positions. During her time as Vicereine, Alice also attended many events back home, such as the coronation of George VI and Elizabeth and the one of Queen Elizabeth II. Her husband, with whom she had 3 children, died in 1957. She spent her last years at Kensington Palace, where she died on January 3, 1981, at the age of 97 years and 313 days. She was the last surviving grandchild of Queen Victoria and saw 6 reigns during her lifetime. At the time of her death, she was also the grand-aunt to Queen Elizabeth II and King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden. Princess Alice is also the longest-lived British princess of blood.